Ravel had this. He orchestrated into this. How? Let's break down the process. Hello, everyone. My name is Yang. I am a music explorer who loves patterns, structure, and logic. In the first two videos of this series, I discussed the first two components of the climax sections in Ravel's Le Tombeau de Couperin prelude. Today, we'll look at the third and the final component, the cascading line at these two spots. We'll see how Ravel leads us out of the peak and into the valley. Let's start with the more complicated one, rehearsal mark 10. Look at the piano score. What does it tell us? First, the dynamic collapses from fortissimo to pianissimo in just 4 measures. That's a very dramatic change. And structurally, there are 3 elements. First, a descending 16th notes line that spans 4 octaves. This is the primary melody. Second, a supporting line in dotted eighth notes moving with the primary melody. Let's call it the secondary melody. And it outlines an A minor 7 harmony. Third, the bass note A dropping along with the descending line. Where do we start? In the previous section, we established that the moving melody sits at the top of the decision-making hierarchy. It determines everything else. The same applies here. So we begin with the melody. It's shared among piccolo, flute, oboe, English horn, and clarinet. Notice that the flute carries almost the entire descending line. The dynamic naturally follows the registers the melody passes through. When the line moves beyond the flute's range, the clarinet takes over. The piccolo extends the top range and cuts through the full orchestra. The oboe and English horn reinforce the flute in their natural registers. And when the flute shifts to the secondary melody, the clarinet covers the primary line. In this passage, the flute is the backbone. The other melody players function as support. The hierarchy is very clear. The second element, the secondary melody. Ravel assigns them to flute, oboe, clarinet, bassoon, and clarinet again. The third element, the bass line. It's played by horn and a second bassoon. So far, every element, every note of the piano has been covered in the orchestra. But there's one more element, not written, but clearly heard and felt on the piano, resonance. Ravel creates the resonance by simply extending and connecting pitches in the woodwinds, with some help from the first horn. Notice that the density and the span of this resonance layer reduces. This reduced intensity perfectly executes the drop in dynamics. This also explains 2 questions that I had when I first looked at the score. First, if the pattern is extending the pitches to create resonance, why doesn't the first bassoon hold the G all the way until it switches function? Because it sits below the bass note, it's not needed. Second, why is only this part of the secondary melody harmonized? But if the clarinet were to hold the G, we would lose this cascading structure. Sonically, it might not matter. The passage moves too quickly. But structurally, it matters. With the clarinet descending with the English horn, it facilitates the intent of the resonance layer, reducing both span and density. Strings. The secondary melody is assigned to first violins and violas. Cellos carry the bass notes throughout, doubled by double basses and later by second violins. The texture thins out to deliver this dynamic change. Second violins and violas take care of the resonance. Just as in woodwinds and brass, the density and the span of the resonance layer also reduce to facilitate the decrescendo. On the score, it may look overwhelming, but in this visualization of elements, which I call sound image, the structure easily reveals itself. As I've mentioned in my previous episodes, structure clarifies the intent and guides orchestration decisions. Let's go back to an earlier section in the score, rehearsal mark 3. Here we see the same structure applied to a miniature descending line. The primary melody is played entirely by the first violins, decorated by 2 clarinets. The sustained bass is played by the second bassoon. For the resonance layer, Ravel continues the harmony E minor 9 outlined by the melody. Notice this mini cascade. Instruments drop out one by one. The density and the span reduce quickly to deliver this rapid drop in dynamics. Same concept as rehearsal mark 10. The major contributor to the drastic dynamic drop is the strings. They don't participate in the resonance layer, instead, they play this bottom line in pizzicato. Changing from arco to pizzicato significantly reduces impact and volume. A subtle detail here. The harmonization reinforces the structure conceptually. As you can see, structure plays such an important role in climax sections. Thank you for watching. I will see you in the next episode.